So I wanted to begin by saying, first of all, what a fantastic honour it is to be here. And I know you've had a discussion about the building, but the building is fabulous, isn't it? What a hidden gem. And I'll come on to this, but I'm very involved in the regeneration of Derry Londonderry. And I think there's a very good example that we could take back here about your poorest building and about buildings being open to the general public. But it is an honour to be here and to be part of the TED Talks. I'm aware of the TED Talks, I dip into them, I refer the students to them, because I do think they're fantastic. They're quite short, but they're inspirational, and you can always get a message in the TED Talks to take away with you. So, however, having said that, I would say that when you're asked to do it, you agree to do it. You put the date in your diary and you say, oh, I must do that, it's December. Seems like a very long time away, I won't bother thinking about it. But sort of as the time becomes closer, you think, what on earth am I going to talk about? What am I going to have to say to these people? What am I going to say that doesn't sound boring, patronising, or just totally uninspiring? So we all have those fears before we appear in front of an audience like this. So I thought the best thing probably for today would be to talk a little about myself, which is unusual because most women don't spend time talking about themselves. Talk about what I think inspired me, why I am where I am, what my key influences were, and then go on to say, well, as a professor, I suppose I should have some words of wisdom, and quite succinctly put together some words of wisdom for you here today. You may not think they're words of wisdom, you may not think they're worth listening to, but on reflection, I suppose they're the lessons that I have learned. And so first of all, when I was asked to think about myself, and I know you've had the introduction, I did try to draw up a list of what I do. And actually I was surprised by the list because most women will know you don't sit down and draw a list and think, I do this, I do that, I do the other. You simply do it and get on with it. And it's only when people come along and say to you, I don't know how you do it. How do you get the energy? How do you keep all those plates spinning in the air? You say, well, I just do it. I'm asked to do it, and I do it, and I want to do it. So I had a list, and I won't bore you with it, but I suppose if I was drawing up my list, it would be mother, wife, daughter, school governor, volunteer, company director, Pro-Vice-Chancellor, Provost of 2 university campuses, member of the Irish President's Council of State, researcher, author, and then I thought I better stop because that actually sounds impossible. But the answer to all of that is how can you do it? How do you do it? No one succeeds alone. I think we all succeed with a very good team behind us. I am very fortunate to have a very supportive husband, very supportive staff, and a very supportive boss. And in fact, they make it all possible. My PA is mostly referred to as the power behind the throne. She organises my life in a way that I can't begin to imagine. In fact, I'm totally useless without her, and to prove the point, she printed me off a map to come here today, even with a picture of the building. How sad is that? But I have to admit it because it is true. So I think I'll move on to a little bit about myself, and I thought I'd give you a laugh to put up here my first picture. And so what I can tell you about myself is I believe that my upbringing was very much instrumental in bringing me to this place. And it was the upbringing that I had that gave me the passion and the work ethic. You can see from my first picture that I'm not a babe, I'm not a baby, because we didn't have a camera in our house. I was brought up on a farm in rural County Down, between Banbridge and Newry. My mother didn't have a camera, she still doesn't have a camera. She's never taken a picture in her life. And she is mesmerised by the fact that her grandchildren have cameras on them at all times and take pictures of what she thinks is irrelevant nonsense. And she said, do you know Shane was here last week and took 5 pictures of the fence? What's all that about? And I kind of think she's probably got a very good idea. We have moved very much in the other direction. But this is the first picture of me that we know we have in the house with my brother John. So I was the 5th of 7 children in a farming family in County Down. And I do think the farming family is very important because I don't know if any of you here from farms? Yes. Well, it's a very unique way of life. It's a wonderful way of life, but the other thing about it is there is a serious work ethic on a farm. The family on a family farm are the reserve army of labour. You're brought out at all times to change cattle, to gather potatoes, to bring in hay, to feed people who are working on the farm, and work is all important. My father believed very strongly in the work ethic and instilled it into us. Work was good in itself. Work was good to keep your mind occupied. Work was good for your physical being. He simply couldn't understand people who didn't want to work. I often remember on a Sunday, which was a day of rest, apparently, we would all 7 of us been taken out into one of our fields to gather stones. A totally pointless exercise, really. But he couldn't bear to see us all lying around doing nothing. And I think that stayed with me for the rest of my life. My children, I might add, detest it, and that's a very different. So again, this is the first picture of my school days at Catesbridge Primary School. And again, I think that had a very profound influence on me. My mother believed very strongly in the power of education to transform, and was a woman before her time. So she sent all of her children to the local Protestant primary school, even though we were Catholics, because she had decided it was the best school and everything else was irrelevant. If we wanted religion, we would get it at home. So we were quite unusual in our locality for that particular reason. We had to change school to make the sacraments in the local Catholic school. And I can remember vividly my sister saying to my mother, "You're making me change school for a piece of bread? What's this all about?" It's so unsettling. She also sent us to the local Protestant grammar school because, again, her rationale was very simple. It's the best school, and you will go there. And when the local clergy came along and said, "Mrs. Heenan, you're causing scandal," she said, "Their education is my business. The religion is yours. You do yours, I'll do mine." And I still think it was a very strong thing to do, given the times that we were in. So I thought I would show you my Holy Communion outfit as well, just to show you that within the farming family it was a hand-me-down culture. And as you can see, this dress was definitely not bought for me. And my sisters are somewhat smaller than I am, and it is probably verging on the obscene, so I think we'll move on quickly. This particular picture, my children, my 3 sons, love this picture because they say, "I haven't changed my hairstyle in 40 years. And they say, "Someday it'll come into style if I stick with it." So moving on then, this image may get you thinking. As I said, my life has been about work. And at the age of 13, I quickly realized it would actually be better to have paid employment than to work at home for nothing. And I have worked since the age of 13. And I have had a long range of jobs, as you might imagine. Babysitting, shop assisting, waitress, chambermaid, barmaid, record counter, housing officer, you name it, I probably had that part-time job, and probably 2 at the same time, in some time during my life. But I loved to work and I loved the challenges. But my working life had a very inauspicious start when my first job was babysitting for a local family. Their then eldest son of 3 years old, I said, "It's time for bed." He said, "It isn't." So we had a little discussion about him going to bed. He decided that he wasn't going to bed. He went outside, and when I followed him outside on the farm, he had taken a live chicken and put it in the tumble dryer at hot heat. And that is what that image is trying to convey to you. Because the mess and the smell and the debris stayed with me for years. And I might add, I wasn't asked back to babysit for that particular family. But it is an enduring image, and one that has, as I say, stayed with me for a very long time. So that's a little bit about me, and I suppose what shaped me, and the things when I think back as to how I am where I am, and the attitudes that I have, and my whole idea about work. So moving on from that, I thought it might be useful, and you might expect someone who spent 20 years in education to have some messages. So my messages are quite succinct, and I hope you'll take something away. The first message I say to you is short-term thinking. Avoid it at all costs. We live in a world full of instant change and we want instant results. And we're sometimes pushed down a road which really isn't for us. And it's a road of short-term thinking. You'll know yourself that someone will say to you, I sent you a text yesterday, you didn't respond. I sent you an email 2 hours ago, I haven't had a response. We live in a world of instant results. I say to you, think longer. Think about where you want to be in 10 years and don't be rushed into knee-jerk reactions. Think about the future. Passion. Passion is important in all our lives, but particularly in terms of living your life and your life experience. I say to you, find your passion. Identify your passion and relentlessly pursue it. I had an offer to go to England to be a lawyer. It was the 11th hour. I decided I wouldn't go because it simply wasn't for me. And I gave up that safe option to go into social sciences because I knew it interested me and I cared passionately about the public sector. If you find your passion, you'll never feel like you've worked a day. So I say to you, think about what you care passionately about, identify it and pursue it. Optimism. Try to be an optimist. An optimistic attitude underpins and drives success. We can't control the things that happen to us, but we can control how we deal with it. I would like you all to be relentlessly cheerful because it does drive success and it makes you an individual that other people want to be with. Ambition. Ambition is a good thing. Revel in it. Don't be ashamed of having ambition. It's not a dirty word, even some will tell you that it is. Remember that most limitations are self-imposed. Never mind, think outside the box, throw the box away and follow your ambitions. And set out your dreams and pursue them relentlessly. Setbacks. We will all have setbacks. We will all make mistakes. But there's nothing wrong with making a mistake. There's nothing wrong with failure. It builds character. It makes us the person that we are. We should take risks. We should encourage our children to take risks. There's nothing more upsetting than a parent coming to me and saying, my little Johnny wants to do creative arts, could you talk them out of it? Because there's never going to be a job for an artist or a musician. No, I don't agree. Go for it. Of course there will be setbacks, but you should follow your instinct. Persevere and you will get there in the end with a strong character. And I suppose I'd like to finish then on my favourite quote, and it comes from Mark Twain. And he said, 20 years from now, you won't regret the things you did. You will only regret the things you didn't. So explore, dream, discover. And good luck to all of you on your journeys.